You are listening to the hottest Saturday night show on the radio, the Darren Mason Show.
What's up, family? This is your boy, Darren Mason. You are tuned into the hottest Saturday show on the radio, the Darren Mason Show. And as always, we'll have to start off the show by saying thank you to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, who's the head of my life, and to my beautiful family, my wife Sabrina, to the two kids, DJ and Delia Mason, and to the village, my mama, auntie, uncle, cousins, mentors, mentees, all of the above. And lastly but not least, to you, our radio fam, thank you for tuning into the hottest Saturday show. And as always, you know that we got to start the show with the Darren's go-to song of the week. This is a song that really got me through, that really ministered with me, that I would love to share with you. And tonight, our go-to song of the week is "This Is a Move," Brandon Lake, featuring Tasha Cobbs.
You are listening to the hottest Saturday night show on the radio, the Darren Mason Show.
What's up, fam? Welcome back to the Darren Mason Show. And so right now, we're going to... You know how we started the show. We're going to do a quick check-in. Our sister, Ashanta, she's off for tonight. But I do want to give a special shout-out to her because she held it down for us, for me, on last week. I'm super proud of her, and I really appreciate it. And so, sis, enjoy your weekend off tonight, but we need you back to work. Okay. All right, so check in with me. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's up, Miss Symone? How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. How was your week?
My week was crazy, but I got through it.
Awesome. So as I said, that our sister Ashanta is not here, but she didn't leave you hanging. We have none other than my big cousin, who's just all around everything. How you doing, cousin Tasha?
I'm very well, cuz. How about yourself?
Doing good. And we have a special guest in the house with us, the Allens, who are YouTubers, business owners, they're ministry leaders. They're just amazing people for the kingdom of God. Very good friends with Sabrina and I. We're so glad that they're in. But sisters, can y'all check in? Let's see who is on your Facebook Live tonight, Tasha?
Facebook? Well, there will be no one. I'm not on Facebook, but I am on IG Live.
Okay. Who's checking in with you?
Right now we have P16 Love. She said, what's the topic for tonight?
Oh, well, tell her, hold tight real quick.
Hold on, not yet.
Hold on. And so I have my homie, Mr. Tarver. He's in the Most Dancer Showtime. I need you on the show real soon. Quita Lee, what's up, sis? Good to see you. Myron Brooks, has been a long time since our days at Tallahassee. Good to see you, bro. Appreciate you for checking in. And the Allens, are y'all on live?
Yes, sir. We on live.
Jarrell, listen, so who's checking in with y'all?
We got Mika Davis. We got Aunt Mosley. We got Barbie.
Milton. Hey y'all.
That's what's up. Thank y'all for checking in. So we're gonna go ahead right into our as Ashanta would say, the hottest segment on the show. It's Sis Let's Chat. So Symone, we'll turn it over to you.
Before we get into this Let's Chat, we do have Tasha here with us tonight. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Well, once again, good evening, everyone. I am Tasha Alvarado, owner and creator of TashaTheDevotedWife.com, marriage and lifestyle blog. And I am a wife of 18 years. Yes, a proud mother of 2 beautiful daughters, Chelsea and Lolly. Hi, babies. I actually have Lolly here with me tonight.
Lollipop.
And I am also an interior decorator. You can find me at Classy Chic Productions on IG for that. So enough of myself. So sis, what's the topic for tonight?
Sis, let's chat.
All right, so as you know, the past 2 shows we have been in the segment of setback for the setup. After the storm, are you really ready? We got into the business aspect. We went a little personal and deep. So tonight we're gonna get into the marriage edition of Are You Really Ready? So we do have some extra special guests with us this evening. We have the Allens, as Darren said. So before we get into the topic, what do you think, Allens?
Introduce yourself for us.
Ladies first.
Hi, my name is Julissa Allen.
Hello, I'm Jarrell Allen, CEO of JJ Designs 305.
Oh, mine is Majestic Styles.
Welcome to the show. All right, so I guess we'll start with you tonight, Tasha. What are your thoughts on Are You Ready Marriage Edition? Are you ready? Well, being that I've been in it, married for 18 years, I can look back and honestly say that for myself speaking, I knew I was ready for marriage once I started loving myself.
Even though as a little girl, my dream personally was always to be a wife and a mother. While others were dreaming of what their profession would be, I wanted to be a wife and mother. But even knowing that, as I got into the dating years, I realized that relationships were not working because I wasn't loving myself enough to attract the right man. And so once I started realizing that I needed that time for myself, because something I was doing was not right. So I started praying. I asked God, of course, to send me the right man for me because I wasn't doing it right. And I started taking time to love myself, and therefore, that's when my husband was introduced to me. So here we are 20 years later, 18 years of marriage later.
Amen, amen. All right, so let's go over to the Allens. What are your thoughts on Are You Really Ready? Marriage Edition?
Ooh, make sure you're ready. I think, like she was saying, really making sure that you really know who you are in God, and being able to, understand, being able to really ask yourself that question: am I really ready for marriage? Being able to really sit back and really begin to look yourself in the mirror and begin to work on self first, like you said. Being able to figure out, okay, what things can I fix? Don't get me wrong. In marriage, there are going to be things that you're going to fix daily. There's going to be things you're going to learn about yourself and your spouse daily. But in that single stage, being able to take care of self then, so that certain things you don't have to worry about fighting through once you do get married.
Because it's magnified once you're married. 10 times.
Sister Melissa, you don't want to add anything on to that?
It's magnified. So try to get as much as you can right. I mean, you're not going to be perfect, and your mate is going to be there to help you through where you're weak. So I just say, just to piggyback on what he was saying, just try to get those big things right.
Can I add something else?
Yes.
Okay. And also, it's very important during that self-time to learn how to love yourself, because mainly for women, and I can speak from experience, when we're not learning how to love ourselves, we're not knowing our worth. And we jump into these relationships and we're expecting that man to fill that void. And I don't care how perfect that man may be, if you're not loving yourself first, it's always going to be some faults. And that relationship is not going to work. And then you're going to leave one bad relationship to go on to another because you have not yet learned to love yourself.
That's good. Well, I need to take down some of these because, I'm in my singleness right now. Lord, with the times right, I know you'll send me my husband. But there, I know you've been married to my beautiful sister for some years. So what is your take on the topic?
Yeah, so 16 years, not yet.
I'll take it.
And so, baby, so been married for almost 7 years in December.
Amen.
We've known each other for 11 years. And so that piece of just getting ready is so important because, like you said, just that time with yourself and knowing God. And so for me, the preparation was very important because I wanted to make sure that I was leading my family and hearing the voice of God. And so sometimes, and it's hard. So let's be clear. Marriage by itself is hard, but I think the preparation was hard for me from a male because you have to be able to hear God for real, and also not want to make your potential spouse feel neglected. But in that time, if you really seeking God for real, as a man, you're gonna do stuff to make them feel some type of way. Your mama gonna feel some type of way. Your daddy, that preparation time is so important. And so for me to now be able to lead the family is easier. It's easier in the sense of, hey, I know you want this, but I feel that we should go this route. I'm not hearing you. I'm hearing you, but I have to trust God's voice clearer than mine and yours together. And then, and so in that time, I think that, you just kind of want to rush through because you feel like, okay, well, I dated you, I gave you your roses, I gave you your card on Valentine's Day, I took you on a few dates, let's get married. But it's a lot more deeper than that. So that preparation. So that's what I really want to talk about. What were some things that you did, Jarrell, in your time of just preparing to be married? Because people say, I want to be married.
Mhm.
And like, I know my experience, a lot of stuff I didn't learn until I got married. And I wish that I would have learned before I got married. And I'm sure that you have some things to where you wish you knew before. So you were like, as a male point of view, like, what was those things that you had to do or God showed you along the way as you got ready?
Before marriage.
Yeah.
Before marriage, I really
To that point where you knew I'm ready, because like our question is, are you really ready? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like what was that moment of you preparing, and then that moment when you said I'm ready?
Honestly, what really got me to the place of saying I was ready, I knew I was going to be married at a young age, and I remember one
How
day.
old?
When I got married, 23 when I got married. I'm now,
Same age.
yeah, I'm now 28, so we still got some,
Yeah, you
5 years, we got some time to go. But what really, honestly, what made me realize I was ready, honestly, I prayed and I asked God to show me my wife. And every day, I seen this beautiful face, every day. It wouldn't fail. Every day I kept seeing her face, and for like about 2 weeks straight, and then I finally, talked to her mom and her sisters and her family and told them about that I wanted to be able to marry her.
Yeah.
And once we started talking, we started courting each other, and I think it became easy because we had a friendship.
Yeah.
We knew each other from high school. We was not high school sweethearts.
Okay.
Not at all.
Not at all. Not at all. It's a different segment. But we knew each other from high school, and that was like really one of my close friends. So once we transitioned to the dating or the courting stage, I realized then that she was the one. So it made it a lot easier for me to be able to say, okay, God, I'm ready. I was able to set aside childish things.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Of course, that's a whole nother segment.
Yeah.
But I set aside childish things. She made me, the God in her made me man up.
Oh wow.
Amen. Say that one more time.
The God in her made me want to man up.
Amen.
And because of the God in her, I did man up. And I put a ring on.
Come on.
Put it right there.
And 6 months later, I said I do.
All right, so you said something very, very powerful. Is that the God in her made you want to man up.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So, Jalissa, like, what was what was that God thing, or like, what was your process as a female preparing to be married, and like, what was that moment where you said, I am ready now, or did you get to that point? Sometimes you probably didn't even get that point. Yeah.
I didn't get to that point. First off, when we were dating, I set the tone
Okay.
for it because I literally wrote down what I wasn't gonna take, what I was gonna take, what I expected from you, which I later learned you can't expect too much because you will get your feelings hurt.
Yeah.
Very much so.
But I knew what I wanted, and in that dating time, he showed me who he was, and I trusted the God in him. And I later I'm still learning how to relinquish my power, my so-called power, right? And trust the God in him. And that's when I knew I didn't know I was ready, but he showed me he had what I wanted. So I go ahead, I let him put the ring on because he had what I wanted.
Awesome. So you are listening to the Darren Mason Show, and if you would like to chime in on this conversation, are you really ready? The marriage edition. You can call into 904-831-1079. Again, that number is 904-831-1079. And so, Tasha, I'm gonna flip it back to you because a lot of times that we kind of really over prepare sometimes for things. But with you being in the game for 18 years,
Yes.
do you feel that you can over prepare, or if you're not prepared, is there still time once you say I do? Because sometimes people that I know and through friendship and just watching that they get married and they weren't prepared for it, and it doesn't go the way that they planned, and they say I'm out.
Right.
So is there room for growth and process during that time if you're not prepared? 'Cause I don't want none part listen to feel, well, we already married. It is what it is at this point.
Mm-hmm.
We're debating, thinking about getting divorced, separating. Talk to us about that time. Can you prepare even after you said I do?
Well, first of all, I've gone through all those emotions you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay, and for marriage, I have to say there's no real preparation. Like as I mentioned before, it's all about loving yourself. And once you're in that place where you love yourself and God has introduced you to your spouse, therefore he himself loving who he is and he is loving and accepting you for who you are. So now once you realize that you were created for one another and you go into this union of marriage, we need to stop having false expectations.
Yes.
Okay? Because one, there's no such thing as a perfect marriage. And there's no rule books to marriage. And we are all learning as we go. And so there are always going to be different situations that are going to arrive that you don't necessarily know how to handle. That is when first you keep God first all the time. Because we are not strong enough to handle something like marriage alone. Because one, we are very emotional creatures. And we can easily allow our personal feelings get in the way. And we can allow small things to turn into bigger things because we are allowing it to take control of us. So that's why it's important. We must have that faith in God and keep that prayer first to keep us bonded. And you can't have real preparation, honestly, because once you get into the marriage, like I said, situations are always going to arise that you are not expecting. And no one knows how they're going to handle those situations until it comes. So all I can say is keep your faith in God, stay true to who you are, and know that when you went into this union, you said for better, for worse, richer, for poor. You are there to support each other during those times. And it is up to you to work through those times together. And what I can say, being in it for 18 years, keep other people out your marriage.
Oh, yes.
I would,
Please
listen,
keep them out of your marriage.
I would just for the ask, can I say that?
Because
You have to.
it's a recipe for
Have to.
disaster.
Yes.
Because first of all, no one knows what's going on in that relationship other than you and your spouse.
Yes.
So when you're running and telling to someone else, they're only getting your side.
Right.
They're not getting the full
Both
story.
sides.
They're not
Yeah.
getting both sides. So of course they're either going to tell you what you want to hear, or they're going to give you some bad information because they already mad, disappointed, jealous of your
Right.
relationship anyway.
Right.
So keep your business between your husband or your wife because it is for you and God to work out.
Yeah.
And of course it's going to get hard.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. But during those hard times, that's when your faith is going to be tested. That's when your true character is going to be tested. And you're really going to find out, are you really made for this? Because it's not going to be sunny days all the time. You know, so you have to just be strong and know that God brought the two of you together for a reason. And just remember why you fell in love with that person.
That's good.
And once you always remember that, it's going to bring you back to, you know what? You're in my life for a reason. I chose you as my life partner for a reason. God created you for me for a reason. And vice versa. He created me for you for a reason. So we need to figure out the problem. And we're going to come together and find a resolution. Because there's something greater for us to work for. We can't just let it go. Like right now, we are in a generation where everything's quick, fast, in a hurry. At the first sign of trouble, they're looking for the first exit. And that's not marriage. It's not marriage.
Divorces are
So,
all-time high.
yes,
Yeah.
all time high.
All-time high.
So I would say there's no real preparation. There is none.
No.
You just always have to keep your faith, communicate with one another, and just be there to support one another through whatever you're going through, the good and the bad.
So you get a lot of key points and components and dynamics of marriage. One thing I do want to ask, and anyone can answer this, is it highly important to, in that time where you're discovering yourself and loving yourself, do you bring on the thing that you learned? Do you bring on the things that is comfortable? Because you can't really prepare, like you said, but there are some things that you can be mindful about. And so, are there some key things that you should just let it go, that you should just release and be open inside of marriage? Because some people say, well, my mama said, my daddy didn't do, or this is what my homegirl said.
Definitely.
This is what the pastor said.
Right.
And so, for me, there were some things that I had to unlearn.
Right.
Unlearn.
It's
And
like
my-
you have to reprogram your brain.
Yeah.
Certain things that you've learned.
Because, to me, I think marriage is very customized perfectly.
Right. It's
Mm-hmm.
what's going on in your relationship, not theirs.
Yeah.
Because what works for you may not work for us.
Mm-hmm.
We are two different individuals. We have our own dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
So what you do is, may not be the best for us.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
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 So, yeah.
I had to unlearn a lot of stuff because I didn't grow up with a man in the household. So everything was based off a woman's
Yeah.
how she felt or whatever. So I had to really get out of my comfort zone
Mm-hmm.
because it's not comfortable. But it actually matured me a lot. So I do thank God for my marriage and my husband. But I had to let go of a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so, like, what was the biggest thing? Like, not growing up with a male in the...
Being submissive.
Yeah.
Because I just did what my mama said. It was no
Yeah.
male figure. It wasn't no male voice. So to hear him raise his voice just the slightest, I was just like, what's up?
Yeah.
So I had to learn, and God really, really helped me along the way.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Because for myself, because we come from a background of marriage,
Good, bad,
And- Yes. My parents married 68 years.
Yes.
Yes. And for myself, my parents were married. My mother in first marriage to my biological father. And in that marriage, I saw the good and the bad. And it was a lot of bad that I saw that affected me as female and growing into my relationship as a woman. And so there was some abuse there. And so for me, that is something that I automatically knew I would never ever tolerate in a relationship, ever. And I can say to this day, I've never ever allowed that ever to happen. But when I did meet my husband, if there was one inkling, one moment that had me thinking that he was trying me. And he wasn't even bringing that aggression. It was just from what I had witnessed and seen. I was like, oh, but you're trying to go there, but it was not that. So I had to actually be delivered from that.
Wow.
I had to be delivered from that because what I witnessed my mother go through. It was an abusive situation. But knowing that my husband was not that kind of man, but still I was just always, like you said, ready.
Right.
But yeah, there's some things that you have to learn to release because it will affect a good thing that you have if you don't. So I really had to,
Because you gotta
rid myself
remember
of
that people change.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, the person who you dated is not the same person you married.
Right.
Wedding day. The person that you celebrated your year anniversary is not the same person 5 years later. So if they're changing, if they're growing, if they're maturing, if they're going through their process with God, we have to be as Christ forgiving and keep no record of wrongdoing and say, well, he did that on our first date. You still think about that? You put up now. Well, she said this back in the day. Okay, but that's not her anymore. And so sometimes we kind of like pinpoint people and remember them of what they did back then and forget that as you're growing, because sometimes we need our time. I'm growing. I can't explain how I feel right now and just accept it. But then we forget that person may be going through the same thing or they may have their moments. But I do want to ask you this question because Jalissa said that she grew up in a mother-led household. We'll put it like that. And how was your dynamics growing up? Tasha talked about her background. I'm curious to see and hear from your perspective.
Wait.
And we'll come right back after this music break.
You are listening to the hottest Saturday night show on the radio, The Darren Mason Show.
Welcome back to the Darren Mason Show, the hottest Saturday night show on the radio. So we're going to just go right to our Symone Talks on the clock segment. We're going to jump right back into this conversation. Are you ready, Mary? Edition. Symone, you're on the clock.
Symone Talks on the clock.
What's up, millennials? It's your girl, Symone Talks, here with 3 social media tips for the week. Number 1, establish social goals that align with your business goals. You want your social media content strategy to have a real impact. Number 2, choose the right social network. A lot of times we think we have to use Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all of that. But I want to give you 3 of the top platforms that you can use. Number 1 is actually Facebook. Number 2, surprisingly, is LinkedIn. And number 3 is Pinterest. Those are the top 3 networks you want to use. And the number 3 on my list is track performance and adjust. After we post, we don't really go back to our numbers or to see how we do. So make sure you check back on make sure you track your engagement, reach, and your conversions.
So Symone Talks. You got the clock. All right, and so Jarrell, we're gonna go right back into this conversation, and I want you to talk about your dynamics of growing up, and cause I know we talked about it before that you had to grow into the role of a husband. What does that mean?
For me, what it was is I grew up. I had both parents growing up. I had mom and dad. And I feel like the struggle with that was, when mom and dad really wasn't home because they was out working and mom and dad dealing with personal issues. It was like growing up, I was raised by grandma. Dad was at work, mom was doing what she had to do. So it was like once I got married, it was like trying to pull what I learned, but I didn't learn from somebody. It was learned behavior because of what I saw growing up. So I feel like when we first got married, the first year was like the hardest for me because trying to detox from all of that. And when I see certain things being done growing up, and once I get into the marriage, it was like, for me, it was like, okay, this is how marriage is supposed to go. Yeah. So it was like certain things, I wasn't being submissive to her. In my mind, I'm the man. I'm the head of the household. What I say is gonna go. Even though I wasn't like aggressive like that, but it was like I was kind of like stuck in my ways. Yeah. And when it came down to finances, I was stuck in that way. I didn't understand the concept that, hey, that if you're not good in a certain area, give her that role. Growing up, being taught as a man, we're taught that we have to take on every role. We got to be in charge. We got to do everything. But learning how to be submissive. And honestly, that came from God. God taught me that. God taught me how to sit down and say, you know what? It's all right. That don't make you less of a man because she taking this role. It's make you more of a man because you understand. And you see the struggles. You see where you lack. You see where you might be falling short at. And now she can pick y'all up. Why not let her do that?
Right.
Yeah.
I can keep going on that, but I feel like that's where I learned that from God. Literally had to sit me down and say it's all right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's good. And so we're gonna go straight to the social media buzz of the week because I want that word. The keyword submission has been going on all night. So Tasha, what is the social media buzz of the week?
So, in case you all have not heard, Fantasia was on The Breakfast Club not too long ago. And she made a statement saying that the reason why a lot of women in today's society do not have men is because they do not know or want to be submissive to their men. And it caused quite a controversy.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's been buzzing hard.
Yes, it's been buzzing hard. And it was mainly from women. Because when they heard that word submissive, they automatically went to, oh, ain't no man gonna tell me what to do. And that's not really what the word submissive means. And I just feel as though there was more dialogue that should have been had, during that interview, because women, they just ran with that word submissive. There was no real clarification, but her and her husband did come back on IG, and they both, gave a more in-depth, explanation, regarding to how they felt about it and being submissive. So I know myself as a wife of 18 years, and for my husband, in our marriage, we pretty much still old school. And so Fantasia also mentioned the statement, the man is supposed to be the head of the house and the woman's the neck. I absolutely agree with that aspect, but you also have to add on to that the women needs to be submissive to the man as well. And looking at a marriage aspect, yes, the woman is submissive to her husband, but the husband needs to be submissive to the wife as well. And what that means is not that one has more control over the other individual. That's not what submissive means. And it does not mean that you are controlling this whole situation. No, it means that we have designated certain roles and responsibilities for each other. And we both agree that this is your role, and you're going to take the lead in those roles. And these are my roles and responsibilities, and I'm going to take the lead in those roles. Right. It does not mean that one is controlling more over the other. No, we're just we're creating a balance. It's a partnership. And I am taking the lead over here, my husband's taking the lead over there, but we are still working together. And we are basically just, taking the load off of each other's back so one person does not have to carry so much of the burden all the time. We're creating balance in our marriage. And with that balance, there's harmony. And with harmony, there's peace. Because a lot of times you have one individual, they do want to try to take the control. And they want to try to have the authority over the entire relationship. And it causes a strain.
Oh, wow. Do we have a caller on it? Okay. Caller, you're on air. Talk to us. Hey, how you doing? What's your name? Hey, Miss Shirley, how you doing today? Did you want to comment on our conversation on tonight?
Hello? Okay, a person that has never been married. Is it pertaining to one particular thing or just in general? Okay, so to someone that has not been married, and my husband's not here with me this evening. It's just myself. I'm rolling solo representing both of us. But for someone that has not been married before, I would definitely say keep God first. And first, love yourself first. Because if you're not loving yourself, there's no way that you are going to be able to love that man or that woman fully. And because there's always going to be a void, and you're always going to be looking and feeling as though something is missing. So you must have that love for yourself first. And also know that it is a union, it's a partnership. There's no one person that's greater or above the other. We are in this union together, through the good, the bad, through the sunny and the rainy times. And it's during those rainy times is when you need to come together more. And you need to stay strong and hold on to each other and know that you can make it through. And once you make it through, you're going to have a greater appreciation and love for each other. And it's going to make that relationship and that marriage even greater. Trust me, I've been there.
Yeah, so thank you, Ms. Shirley, for calling in. Appreciate
Thank you.
All right, so this is part of the show that we hate to say goodbye, but we say until next time. And I think we're going to keep this conversation going on over to next week. So tune in to the to Praise of 107.9, the Darren Mason Show, Hollis 7 Show on the radio. Thank you for tuning in. God bless and have a great week.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.